Backyard cricket has produced some fine players over the years, and with that some fine leaders. It is the opinion of many that the greatest captain of all was a man who began playing with a wooden spoon and a ping-pong ball in his bedroom in the modest suburb of Surrey Hills. From these humble beginnings, he eventually led his side, Elwood Street, to become one of the great backyard teams of the 21st century. His captaincy was well known for his unique tactics and flamboyance. This is the story of how this boy developed from a juvenile delinquent to become one of the most influential figures in the backyard cricket scene. From making big hundreds on shrub-infested backyards to taking miraculous one-handed catches off obstructing objects, this man could do it all. This is the story of the great Stephen Bergs.
Stephen Bergs was a supremely talented player that had no difficulty adjusting to playing at the elite level of the game. He made an immediate impact and was an instant crowd favourite amongst supporters from all teams. His charismatic charm had journos frothing from the mouth and was becoming more than a household name. His presence both on and off the field was simply enormous.
When Stephen first came to the game, he brought this youthful exuberance that the game was well and truly in dire need of. And, you know, the game had been suffering. It really had. You know, the generations prior to Stephen had provided a very lacklustre sort of environment to play cricket in, and the crowds were down as a result. And Stephen, he brought this instant presence to the game, which was you know, just simply phenomenal. And he really led the charge in bringing the game back to being a spectator sport.
Why not? Why not?
People wanted to know more about who is this bloke. You know, what does he do? You know, when he's not playing cricket, and so the scrutiny became more and more obvious for someone like him compared to, you know, previous eras.
Yeah, well, the first thing I remember about playing was initially receiving my baggy Carlton draft Sky Trooper. You know, it just meant so much to me. I just never wanted to take it off. You know, I mean, I'd mow the lawn in it, I'd do the dishes in it. You know, I'd even been known to rub one out in it before. You know, no, it just meant so much to me. I love it.
It was becoming too much for Stephen. People coming up to him in the street, talking to him, just the attention in general, you know, constant paparazzi, like attacks from civilians in the street. And, you know, the kid was a rock star. He really was. And unfortunately, the fame got the better of him, and we saw him go downhill very quickly.
He got whacked and was photographed outside a nightclub with a big shiner, and subsequently suspended for 2 games. It's really hurt him. I covered the press conference in Hobart.
I'd like to apologise to the Australian public for my actions last night. At the time of the event, I wasn't actually aware that hitting a woman was a crime, but I've now been notified of that legislation. I've embarrassed myself, my family, my mistresses, my friends and my dad, my cattle, but most importantly my pet kelpie, Kyra. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it.
It was becoming a reoccurring habit for Stephen, and time after time we saw him in the attention of the public for the wrong reasons. He developed a few nasty habits that became a real problem because he couldn't deal with it. He was making a fool out of himself at team functions and various different nightclubs throughout the city, and quite frankly, he was bringing his teammates down with him.
There's not a lot of good that happens at 2:30 in the morning in a pub or a nightclub, and I believe that the team as a whole and the people that were around him at the time also need to take responsibility for what happened, and they are under no illusions that they have that responsibility. And again, that comes back to the values and behaviours that we expect.
Look, they were good times, you know. But my habits were just getting out of control. I mean, parties were turning into week-long benders, and I just couldn't control myself. It took Shane Warne, of all people, to actually pull me up about it and just show me the potential that I could, you know, fulfil. And once he did that, I got my life back on track. More importantly, my backyard cricket career. I mean, I really owe a lot to Shaney. I really owe a lot to Warnie.
I think that what stood out is he took responsibility for his own actions, and became a better person for that.
He seemed to withdraw himself from going out with the guys, having nights out, late nights. That was probably the initial impact, and obviously it really honed his focus on his cricket as well, and we started to see that maturing not just off the field but on the field as well as a player.
It took the Australian public quite some time to forgive him for his actions, but eventually they did, and the runs started to flow freely again. As a result of the vast amount of runs he was accumulating, Stephen was then appointed the new captain of his side. It was to be the beginning of a new era of backyard cricket.
His captaincy also started to flourish. I mean, he had all the qualities you look for in a leader.
Well, he was terrific with the media. He always had a drink with the opposition. He was great fun. And yet when it came to it, in the tight moments in the game, he had that little streak of toughness about him. A wonderful character.
Yeah, no, I was feeling good about my cricket. You know, I mean, everything was falling into place. I'd cut down my cigarette smoking, just 1 packet a week, and I'd also stop punching cones the night before games.
Bergs was coming into the twilight of his career when he stamped his mark on the beautiful game for good. It came from a come-behind win where he stood tall and single-handedly won the game for his side.
We were just getting smashed to all parts of the ground, and I haven't played a game of cricket where so many catches were being dropped, and consequently the tension had raised to a whole new level.
Gazza was bowling when he got into an altercation with the auto wiki. He then had a misstumping off his bowling where he then lost his temper, and before we knew it, he was laying into the keeper, which was nothing but a lifeless water tank. Stumps on day one, they had posted one of the highest scores ever recorded at the Sheehan. It was a common feeling amongst the boys that we were absolutely toasted. Bergsy pulled all the boys into a huddle after play and came up with one of the most spine-tingling rev-up speeches I've ever heard in my life.
He looked everyone in the eyes. He said, "There's not a person in this world who thinks we can win this test match. Let's just see about that, eh?"
The next day, he came out to bat, and he just batted and batted and batted. He never looked like he was going out.
And with that, I made this magnificent 100.
The intensity had lifted, and so had the crowd. Bergsy was trying anything and everything he could to get the win.
You know, man management skills, understanding, you know, how people work in different situations, how to motivate them. Some people might need a little bit of a smack round the bum, and some people might need to be cajoled and all those sorts of things to get the best out of them. So obviously he developed some wonderful skills in that area to help get the best out of players. And a master tactician in today's game, and his record I think will speak for itself.
Yeah, so I put a bloke inside the green car with nothing but his arm dangling out the window, and 2 balls later Endo hit it straight to him. People say, "What did you do that move for?" And I just say, "Well, mate, I was actually, you know, I was 3 bongs deep at the time, and then put him in the car, said run up the servo and fetch me some munchies food." To be a good captain in this game, mate, you got to be a little bit mad, and you know, certainly paid off that time, didn't it?
We won that test match through Stevie alone. His courage single-handedly dragged us over the line.
It was just something else, and I've marvelled at it ever since.
He's a cricketer that I love watching.
He had the ferocity of a feral mutt.
Bergs went on to achieve nearly every accolade possible in the sport and will go down as one of the all-time greats of the game.
Is just a wonderful cricketer, and by the way, a really nice bloke. In an environment, around a dinner table, just wonderful company. There will unfortunately be those people who will point to some of his indiscretions, but at the end of the day, those of us lucky enough to have watched him and to have known him, well, you know, all I can say, we're the better for it.